title of my talk today is Biotechnology, Your Imagination is the Limit. And I don't mean that in a figurative way. I actually mean it in every possible way, that really your imagination is the limit. Let me tell you a little bit about myself, because I think that story is relevant to our discussion today. I'm actually an engineer. So post completion of my 12th, I took up a degree in engineering, electrical and electronics engineering. Did that for about 4 years, and post which I pursued a master's degree again in electrical and electronics engineering at the University of Cincinnati, and then I went to work. I went to work in Silicon Valley for about a year, and then I worked in New York for about a year. So interestingly, what happened was, although I was working in engineering, I was working in an engineering company, the project that I was working on was in human health. One was in the area of genetic sequencing. So that was the first time I had this realization that, wait a minute, now I was told that after 12, you are supposed to pick whether you are going into engineering or something, or medicine, and that's pretty much it. You become an engineer, and then you spend the rest of your life as an engineer. Or you become a doctor, you spend the rest of your life as a doctor. That was the worldview, at least, that was prevalent when I was a student. But here I was, after doing a master's degree in engineering, doing something that is very different. I mean, although I'm still using the tools of engineering, but I'm working in a different domain. I'm working in medical, healthcare domain. So that was eye-opening for me, that my life is not defined by my degrees. My life is not defined by my past, but my future, which I can choose it to be whatever it is that I want to be, as long as I decide to spend it in a productive way. So that was an eye-opener. That was an inspiration for me. And that led me to do a PhD in biomedical applications of electrical engineering. And then, my project in PhD was to develop a cancer detection system. All of this is in engineering, by the way. So the reason I'm elaborating on this, guys, is that we have this narrow view that engineering is, building I mean, even in engineering, we have these mechanical. So if you're a mechanical, then you actually build, cars and those kind of things. And if you're an electrical, then you build electrical devices and so on and so on. So we have this narrow view of how world is, but I'm just trying to expand that and tell you that, for example, a lot of electrical engineers, biomedical engineers work on the MRI. I'm sure most of you have seen an MRI system and so on. So the MRI is very complex, and all of this is engineering. In fact, I would argue that most things that are built in the world, whether it's in surgery, whether in hospitals, whether in whatever it is, actually they are built by engineers. So as long as you have a very, very strong foundation, good foundation in engineering, you can apply yourself to many, many, many different things. Right? So I finished my PhD, and then I went on to work for different companies. But after that, when I first came into contact with healthcare technology in my 2 years of work, after completing my master's degree, I never looked back. Since then, my career has been in healthcare, in medical, using the skills of engineering, but completely in the domain of medicine, in healthcare, human health. So that is my story. So the takeaway for you is that you're not defined by your past. You're not defined by your degrees. For example, I have a PhD. So typically for people with PhDs, they would be expected to be professors or researchers and so on. And I did that for a short period of time, but then I decided that's not for me. Working in a company is not for me. Running a company is for me. So I founded my own companies to run. Right? And I have lots of hobbies that are outside of engineering and companies. I mean, one of the things that I do with my spare time is I write algorithms for different applications and so on. So I have diverse interests. I read a lot. So the things that I would encourage you to do is keep a very, very, very open mind. As long as you are spending your time in a productive capacity, and only you can answer that. As long as you know that you're not wasting time, then you're doing good, right? So I'm going to cover some more of these aspects as we go along. But the long and short of my story is that I am an engineer with 3 degrees in electrical engineering. But what I do today doesn't have much to do with electrical engineering. It has to do with life sciences, healthcare, and medical. And I don't work for anyone. I actually run my own company, right? So those are the possibilities that are also available to you, is what I wanted to convey through my story. All right. So what is technology, right? So modifying, one definition of technology can be modifying natural substances to create tools. Well, why do we want to create tools? Because tools is what makes us human. For example, what's the difference between a chimpanzee and other animals, right? There are so many different animals in the jungle. There's lions and tigers and chimpanzees, monkeys, so on and so forth. Chimpanzees, of all of the, among the animal kingdom, chimpanzees are better tool users. What does that mean? Well, they are able to take stuff around them and turn them into tools. For example, they can actually pick up a twig, they can put it inside a hole and take out ants and eat. And they can find out a way on how to smash nuts using stones. They know how to sharpen stones to use it as a knife edge. Other animals don't do this. Chimpanzees do this. So the advantage chimpanzees have is they are better tool users than other animals. Okay, so what's the difference between humans and other animals? Well, the difference between humans and other animals is humans are the best tool users in the entire universe. That's why we dominate the universe so much. That's why we have pretty much, driven most of the other animals to be at our mercy. We have made a lot of them extinct. It's an immense amount of power that we enjoy. And the reason for that is humans are better tool users. So have you ever seen any other animal, for example, like a lion doesn't sit on a horse and chase its prey fast. No, humans do. Now, we domesticated the cattle, we domesticated the horse. So we control a lot of other animals. We made tools. We actually made a tool called aeroplane, through which we can actually go travel thousands and thousands of kilometers in a very short period of time. Humans are the best tool users in the entire universe. But obviously, what allows us to do that is the kind of brain that we have, which other animals don't have, right? So technology is nothing but modifying natural substances to create tools. I'll give you one example. Iron is found in nature as particles. So you can actually find when you go to the to rock mountains and so on, you can actually see iron particles, right? If you take a magnet and move it around, you'll see that these particles are attracted to that magnet. But that is not useful. What can you do with those particles? There's nothing much you can do with those particles. You have to shape them, shape the iron into knives, hammers, train tracks, building reinforcement rods. So whatever, there's millions and millions of things that are constructed with the iron. So technology is transforming natural substances to tools that we can use for a lot of different things. So let me ask you this. One of the pieces of technology that is powering the world today, the computer chip that is used in your mobile phones, that is used in the computers through which you're attending the webinar today, screens, radar, satellites, you name it. I mean, almost everything is now has a computer chip inside. Did you know what is the material that is used inside a computer chip, the core material that is used to manufacture computer chip? That material. So let me see if I can open up the chat window and see anybody wants to respond to that. I'll just give half a minute. Yeah, absolutely. A couple of people responded silicon. But did you know where silicon comes? What is silicon? What is silicon? Where does it come from? It is an element, but tell me where it is found. It is very commonly found. Where is it found? No. So when you go to the beach next time, exactly, sand. Saravanan replied, there is sand. When you go to the beach, remember that beach sand is nothing but silicon dioxide. That same sand is actually used to purify, extract silicon from silicon dioxide and use it to create computer chips. So something as ordinary, as prevalent as silicon, like sand, is transformed into the computer chip that is powering all of these things that we enjoy today, right? So that is the power of technology. That is what we do as tool users. Okay, so coming to the next point, we looked at what technology is. So let's now look at what biotechnology is, right? Biotechnology is, if technology is modifying substances into tools, biotechnology is modifying natural living substances into something that can be used for specific purposes. Okay. And okay, there are two main applications of biotechnology. One is in food, and the other one is in human health. So when it comes to food, for example, pesticides. A lot of you know pesticides. They are bad things for humans, but they are needed for agriculture. Why? Because the farmers plant acres and acres of land, and unfortunately what happens is the pests, which is like small insects and worms, they end up destroying the crop, and the poor farmer loses the crops. And not only that, there is a shortage of food for the general population. If most of the crop is destroyed, then you don't have much left, right? So with the help of biotechnology, we can reduce the use of pesticides. We can create crops that are more resistant to attack by these pests. The other thing, I mean, animals. So, for example, like, a lot of people are non-vegetarian. People among the vegetarians among us consume milk, for example. If there are the cows can give us more milk. It's better for us, right? It's better for the farmer. It is also better for us because more productivity. Same thing with the meat. I mean, for example, like a normal chicken will give you maybe about 1 kilogram of meat. What if the chickens can give you 2 kilograms of meat? The more the better. They're healthier, and so on. Greater production yield. For example, one tree is giving you 100 banana. What if through technology we can create the same tree to give us 200 banana? It's good for us, right? More production, less deforestation. For example, if you wanted 200 bananas, you needed to plant 2 trees, which required more forest to be cleared, more area. The 2 trees will take up twice the area of a single tree. So if we can make the same tree to give us twice the amount of food, then that means that we can double the output from the same amount of land. So that saves us deforestation and so on. So many different benefits of biotechnology. At the end of the day, the farmer is better off. He makes more money. Society is better off. Everybody is better off, and food is nutritious. That's the whole promise of biotechnology. So some more applications in food. So we looked at how yields can be better. Like what yield means is, for example, for every acre of land, if you're getting, say, like 10 kilograms of rice, through biotechnology, you can, for example, you can double it to 20 kilograms of rice, 200 bananas, or 500 mangoes. So essentially, for the same amount of land, same piece of land, for the same amount of all resources that you're using, for example, say you needed 500 liters of water. So everything else being same, through the use of technology, you're changing the amount of harvesting you're doing from that land. So that is the power of biotechnology. So agriculture is extremely water intensive. Large amounts of water are taken up. So it is in the interest, and as you know, of all the water that is on the planet, only 3% is drinkable water. And that drinkable water is actually getting lesser and lesser. A lot of people are dependent on the water. Same water is also used for agriculture. So if that is the case, there is shortage of water. So if biotechnology can help us to reduce the water consumption in agriculture, that's a great thing. And that's one of the applications of biotechnology. Different varieties, seedless varieties. For example, if you may have seen watermelon that are seedless, and you can increase the amount of sweetness in fruits, you can increase the amount of fiber in fruits, you can increase certain types of nutrients in fruits, and so on. You could, for example, like over the years, the size of the corn has gone up because we are selecting corn that is larger in size. You can engineer the corn to be larger in size. You can engineer it to be rice to be of different varieties. So essentially, you can design what kind of food that you want. Apples, for example, you don't like smaller apples, I mean, because smaller apples are generally, don't yield much. So, right. So larger apples give you more edible part of the fruit than a smaller apple for the same amount of weight. So engineering them to be of different sizes, fast growing, for example, say mango takes about 6 months to grow. Can you make it in 3 months through biotechnology? Possible, right? So opens up the point is biotechnology opens up tremendous possibilities to do so many things. When it comes to food technology, drought resistance. Some years there is a lack of rain and the crop is destroyed. But if we can create through biotechnology, crops that are resistant to drought, meaning even with small amount of rain, they're still able to give us. And pest resistance is something that we looked at. Increased milk production is something also we spoke about, right? So these are some of the different applications of biotechnology when it comes to food. And let me remind you the two major areas of application of biotechnology. One is in food and the other one is human health, right? Okay, so continuing on with the theme of food. Meat production is a large industry in the world. Like many countries eat meat. And interestingly, one of the inspirations for biotechnology and modifying organisms based on biotechnology is nature itself. For example, some of you may know about the horse racing industry, right? Where we race horses. What happens is the winning horse is usually mated with female horse to produce a baby. So what we do is we take the winner and we pass it on to the next generation. And we keep selecting the winners so that the attributes, the genetic attributes, whatever enabled that winner to be a winner, you want to preserve it in the next generation, right? So that's genetic engineering in a way, in a natural way. So for example, you have 100 animals, you raise them, you take the top two animals and you create babies out of the top two animals, and the resulting baby will have the attributes of the top two. It's like, Usain Bolt has babies and his son will likely to be as fast running as Usain Bolt, right? This is kind of what we did with horse. This has been done for hundreds of years. So this here is the bull that you see here is a bull known as Belgian blue, and is a European bull used in the meat industry. What is special about this bull is, clearly it's very muscular, not because it goes to the gym or anything like that. Right? It has a particular genetic mutation which allows it to have double and sometimes triple the amount of muscle that a normal bull can have. And this kind of genetic mutations can also be found in certain types of dogs and so on. So humans observe this, and humans have been taking advantage of this for several centuries. I mean, this bull has been bred over and over again. So, essentially, like when the first person spotted, oh my God, this bull is different. Why does it look different? Why is it so meaty? And then what they did was, instead of sacrificing and using them for meat, they actually started producing babies by mating this bull with a cow. And those babies also had similar attributes, right? So this, in a way, is genetic engineering. After observations, now that technology is enabling us or allowing us to do more things, we have now started to create what is known as man-made variety. First example, so researchers, scientists in China and other countries looked deeper into exactly what genetic mutation allows this bull to have this amount of muscle, and can we recreate that in our lab? So they asked this question, and the answer was yes. Now they are creating pigs with the same genetic mutation, and now the pigs are having double and sometimes triple the amount of muscle mass than not what they would have. Another interesting application. This is a Canadian company called Aqua Bounty. So salmon, most of you probably have had salmon if you're non-vegetarian. Salmon is a very delicious fish. It grows in the wild. It takes a certain amount of time to grow and so on. So if you're a farmer who's growing salmon for sale, you have to wait 8 months, and it grows to 1 kilogram and so on. So the scientists ask the question, can we make the salmon bigger? Say everything else is the same. The feed is the same. The amount of the food you're providing to the salmon is the same. You just want this salmon to grow to a larger size in the same amount of time, or the same size and half the amount of time is the same thing. And the answer again was yes. They managed to do genetic engineering to produce that can grow to twice the size in the same amount of time, right? So you see both fish are 18 months. One of them is 6.6 pounds and the other one is less than half the size. So the one that is smaller, the less than half the size, is the natural variety of salmon. That's how nature makes it. The one that is bigger is how man made it. Man made it in the sense that we took what nature has made, modified it to actually be of a bigger size in less time. Okay, what is even more interesting, in my view, this is the technology of the future, is a lot of people, including myself, do not, although I'm a non-vegetarian, I really do not like that we have to harm another animal to be able to enjoy the meat and so on and so forth. So recently, you probably have read in the news that there's a new technology called lab-grown meat, meaning there is no animal that is involved here. We take the human, for example, if you look at a human body from 1 day old to what you are today, look at the kilogram difference. When you were, 1 month old, you're probably about 3 kilograms or 4 kilograms. Now you are, probably 60, 65 kilograms. Where did all that come from? Where did all that extra kilograms come from? Well, it's a process called growth. Well, how did growth happen? Well, the number of cells in the body kept doubling. When you were 1 month old, you probably have about maybe, 10 million cells. Now you probably have about 1 trillion cells. So essentially, the number of cells in your body have expanded so much, and that's where the weight came from. So scientists ask the question: if the body can do this, can we do the same thing? Can we take a small amount of meat and we can, keep putting growth factors? Growth factors means chemicals that allow the cells to grow, double, triple, and so on. Can we allow this to happen and create meat out of it? And the answer was yes. So there are several companies now that are working on this technology, and this meat is already available in supermarkets and the animal anymore. It's just modification and we all have two legs, but it's an extremely rare condition where the legs are fused together. This is again a genetic abnormality called mermaid syndrome. This is a little bit more common, the cleft lip, where there is kind of a split in the upper lip. That is also a genetic condition, and so on, right? There are other examples of genetic conditions: cystic fibrosis, progeria, heart disease, high cholesterol. A lot of these are genetic conditions. Okay, so what are the applications of biotechnology in health? Disease prevention at birth and thereafter. For example, in many cases, we know if one of the parents or both the parents are carrying a genetic mutation, the child is likely to have the genetic condition. So If we already know that, can we do something about it and prevent the condition at birth or after birth, right, by intervening through biotechnology? The answer is yes. Novel vaccines. So, as you know, we're still going through the coronavirus. But if you remember, about 12 to 16 months after the virus became became a pandemic, companies already had vaccines in a very short period of time for coronavirus, right? Biotechnology is the technology that is behind the vaccine production and so on. Medicines production. So a lot of the technology, medicines are produced using biotechnology, either using biological molecules or through chemical molecules. Things like artificial blood. So when you need some blood, we have to go out to ask for donors and so on. Can we create this blood in the lab without needing to ask for a donor? The answer is yes. Unfortunately for us, as we get, eventually we all get older. Your parents are getting older, your grandparents are getting older, and so on. Is it possible to significantly slow down aging and extend the human lifespan far beyond what is considered now to be the limits of human lifespan, which is about 120 years? The answer again is yes, through biotechnology. Organs for transplants. A lot of people are waiting in line to receive organs that have failed. Some of you, maybe in your family, you may actually know people who need organs and not getting it. It's because there are not enough donors. I mean, when someone needs an organ, there is no one on the other side to donate the organ. You have to wait for someone to pass away and give the organs to them. Right. So interestingly with biotechnology, what happens is you can actually design a pig, for example, to be able to donate the organ to humans. That opens up lots of avenues and doors. If somebody needs a heart transplant, you don't have to wait for someone to pass away to give heart to the person who needs it. You can actually use a pig's organ to be able to transplant into the humans. So that is also an application of biotechnology. And Olympics is now underway. As you know, there's a lot of doping to enhance human performance, right? I mean, to increase the number of RBCs, to increase the muscle mass, and so on and so forth. Can biotechnology be used to enhance human performance? The answer is yes. So I want to give you one small example here. This is a bit trivial, but highlights the power of biotechnology. You see some colorful fish in my screen, right? There's a pink, there's red, green, yellow. But there's one fish at the bottom, which is really transparent and colorless. That is actually the original natural fish. This fish is, I think it's called the zebrafish, if I'm not wrong. And it's supposed to be like this, supposed to be colorless. But then through genetic engineering, we created this different colored fish. We can put any color we want, right? Essentially, you're modifying the genes of the fish to express the different colors in the fish. So this fish is now available in Canada. I think you can buy this fish as a pet fish. So essentially, by modifying the genetics, you are able to express the same fish in different colors. Okay, so I've given you plenty of examples of the power of biotechnology, what it can do for human health and food and so on. What does it mean to be a biotechnologist today, right? I mean, what does it mean? Like, for example, if I tell you an aeronautical engineer, you can imagine what it means to be an aeronautical engineer or a civil engineer. You have some good idea, but what does it mean to be a biotechnologist? As a biotechnologist, you can work in biological research lab doing experiments. This is like, any molecular biology lab. You could work in farms. I mean, I mentioned to you how biotechnology impacts food production or animal products production and so on. So that entails, as an application specialist, you could be part of the farms. For example, if you're involved in medicine productions or you're involved in vaccine production, that type of work is typically done in production factories, biotechnology production factories. Software. If you look at human genetics, human genes, this is an area that I would encourage you to look into. It looks like software code. The human genome is about 3 gigabases long. Then there is proteomics, then there's other types of omics, which involves working with huge amounts of data sets. So essentially, you're a data scientist, you're a software analyst, but working with data in the biotechnology domain. So regardless of what your interest is, whether you like being in the farm, whether you like being in the production factory, whether you like being in the lab, all of these different options are available to you. You can also work with animals, plants, bacteria, viruses, work in hospitals. For example, we spoke about artificial blood. We spoke about organ transplants, so on and so forth. So all these avenues are available to you, right? From basically working in the biological research lab all the way to hospitals and food companies. So what can happen in the next 25 to 50 years, right? For example, if you're in the 12th grade, then you're looking at where you probably are around 16, 17 years old. Next 50 years are going to be fantastic and transformational. So your journey is, how do you plan your next 50 years of your life? Say, for example, somebody invited you to come and give a lecture like what I'm doing today. I want you to think of it, think about it for a moment as to what kind of lecture you would like to give, as to what kind of life you have led, right? So that's how you kind of plan your life ahead. So next 25 to 50 years is how you will be spending your life and career. What would you like to do? Okay, so what will happen in the next 25 to 50 years is humans will live longer. They will live younger. In my view, we would have successfully slowed down the aging process. We will look younger and we will live healthier. So right now, at the moment, if someone gets to 55, 60, they have diabetes, they have heart disease, this and that, all that would be pushed to later. So for the most part, we will be healthier. We will start eating, I kind of believe that we will start eating lab-grown meat. Slowly, we will remove our dependence from animals. The reason for that, one key reason for that is animal cruelty, right? Obviously. The other one is consuming meat from animals is also very environmentally expensive. It takes a large amount of land to upkeep these animals. The amount of water that is needed to feed to these animals is also, and I told you that we have a water shortage in the world. And the third is the animals also produce what are known as greenhouse gases like methane, which are damaging to the environment. So lab-grown meat solves many, many, many problems. Farming agriculture will become much more efficient. The amount of water that we use today will be reduced significantly. The plants will become drought resistant. They will become very efficient. The yields will be higher. So all these things. So this all together, this will reduce the amount of starvation and poverty in the world. Most people will have enough and nutritious food to eat. People who need organ transplants will be able to get organs from other animals. And we would have eradicated most diseases such as malaria, dengue, heart disease, and a lot of other diseases. Like, even to some extent, I would say we would have eradicated diabetes and hypertension and so on. Okay, so many things, so many possibilities in the next 50 years, right? But who is going to make all of this happen, right? So that is the key question. And the answer is you, right? The future belongs to you. You're going to be those biotechnologists. You're going to be those people that will ensure that this innovation is translated into impact for food and a better world and human health. Okay, what should you do, right? So this is important. As a student, if somebody were to advise me, if I was your age, what would that advice be? What should you do? The key things I like to share with students is, don't study for a job, and that is behind us. That is past. We no longer live in the world. If you study for a job, you will be very, very narrow in your impact on the world. Learn to understand the world better. Right? So you should be absolutely and infinitely curious about how everything works. How does the sun work? Where do we get water from? So you keep asking why, and you keep asking how, and that will enable you to develop an understanding of the world that a lot of people don't have. And that is your strength. That is what will help you achieve anything you want to achieve, a better understanding of the world. So, for example, you should know, where did I come from? So before birth, I mean, obviously, you were born through your mother, but what was the process? What happened in the 9 months prior to you were born? How did you develop from a single cell to the organism that you are today? Right. So this is not even scientific. This is just curiosity. You're just curious that you want to know so many things. And most children are curious. I mean, we are born with that attribute. Unfortunately, what happens is society blunts that attribute. Most of the questions children ask, the people around them are not able to answer, their teachers are not able to answer, their parents are not able to answer. And unfortunately, over time, children just lose that curiosity. Don't lose that curiosity. Keep asking that question. The world has changed. Previously, you only had two resources. One is your teachers at school. The other one is your parents at home. And the questions you were asking were difficult for both of these set of people. But unfortunately, you're no longer limited. The world will provide an answer for you. Right? So you can keep asking and asking and asking, and I can guarantee you, whatever question you have all the resources in the world to satisfy your curiosity and ask those questions. And most people around you, I mean, at least in the past, they don't know how to say they don't know. This is a huge issue, right? They either give you the wrong answer or they kind of dismiss the question as being trivial. They just don't know that they don't know. If you ask me something I don't know, I'll tell you I don't know. If I can help you and tell you where you could find the answer, I'll tell you that. But I won't make up an answer. I promise you that much, right? When you're told that your choices are limited, it's mostly a lie. Your choices are not limited. Even in the next 4 years, if you end up doing an engineering degree, doesn't mean that the rest of your life is going to be in engineering. It could be whatever that it is that you want it to be, as long as it is productive, as long as it is fueled by passion. I think that is important. If you're not passionate, then you won't create an impact in anything. But if you are passionate, then there is no limit on what you can do. So keep that in mind. And this is something very, very, very important, right? I wanted to touch upon. You have this invaluable resource called YouTube. I mean, I wish I could truly express in words how absolutely incredible that resource is. When I went to school, when I was in 10th grade, 12th grade, so on and so forth, I was at the mercy of my teacher, meaning like, say for example, there is a math problem. And really, for any problem, there are infinite ways of solving it. Okay, and the teacher happens to know one or two ways of solving it. Now, if you, as a student sitting in the class, did not understand the way of the teacher, then I feel sorry for you. You're pretty much doomed, right? But today, you don't have that limitation. You can open up YouTube and you can search for that topic. You nearly have infinite ways of solving the problem. So even if you don't get the first method, second method, third method, fourth, there is at least one method where you will get it. You have that resource in front of you. Unfortunately, it is a resource that is misused. I keep giving this example to my friends. I mean, there are wonderful, wonderful videos on YouTube with like 100,000, 150,000, or sometimes even 10, 15,000. I went through the channels, Arun's channel, NPCOA channel, and most of the videos have 200, 300 views. I mean, it's an incredible channel with so many speakers, and he puts in so much effort to bring all these resources. How many people utilize this channel? Very few. Here's the shame. What do you think is the most valued, most viewed video on YouTube? Let me see if anybody can answer that. What do you think is the highest ranking? Anybody wants to answer that? There you go. Music and entertainment. The last I checked, there is a and the last I checked, there was a video called Gangnam Style with close to several billion views, right? So here you go. The world is open to you. You have the choice of spending your time to understand the world better, to fuel your passion. But what do most people do? They watch Gangnam Style again and again. Don't do that, is my advice to you. I mean, I'm not saying don't entertain yourself, but I'm saying your life is not entertainment. There is we eat food, but if your entire 24 hours is eating filled with eating food, you will explode. You won't even be alive. What most people do today is equivalent of what we do with food is equivalent of eating food, entertaining themselves throughout the entire day, which is like eating the whole day, which is as useless as it can get. Right? So use that resource. It's a phenomenal resource. I myself use it a lot on topics that I want to understand. I watch one video. If I don't understand it, I go keep watching videos until I get it. I think that is important.